H-O-T-T-O-G-O. Now it's time for movie wrap-up. I've got 10 movies to review, yes I do. There we go, hey? I'm a Chappelle Roan superfan now. There we go. It's my version of Hot to Go by Chappelle Roan. Next week, I don't know who will be in the intro for the movie wrap-up, but anyway, listen, it is true. I actually do have 10 movies to review in this week's episode of the movie wrap-up because I've watched 10 movies this week, and now I'm just babbling. So, start the titles. Let's just get through all the movies that I've watched this week and give you my thoughts and opinions on each movie as we go along. You're watching Steve's Movie Wrap-Up, episode 44, right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. The first movie we'll be reviewing in this episode is The Deliverance. So starting off this week with The Deliverance, which I gave 2 stars over on Letterboxd. So The Deliverance was released on Netflix in the last couple of weeks, and not gonna lie, this movie wasn't great. Lee Daniels directs the film. The only actress that I do recognise in here is Glenn Close, and some of the dialogue in here is rather quotable, to the point where other reviews on Letterboxd have quoted it as well. My favourite lines for this movie, which by the way are rather expletive, so forgive me for saying this, but this is for context of the film, but my favourite lines in this movie is, "Doctor, my son ate his own shit." And the other line, which made me laugh, was, "I can smell your nappy, pussy." Yes, these are actual lines from the film that actually exist on Netflix. The problem that this film does is it struggles to find its balance as well in terms of what it wants to be. Does it want to be a horror movie? Does it want to be a drama movie? I think the two tries to blend itself, but sadly it just doesn't work. The other thing I have noticed with the other Letterboxd users' reviews for this movie, which I do agree with, is if Jordan Peele was attached to direct this movie instead of Lee Daniels, then this would have worked, and it's safe to say I agree with those users on Letterboxd. What I can say about this movie that is decent is the music scoring. It does know when it needs to be tense and quite chilling, especially in the opening titles as well. I was very amazed by that. The movie does have a running time of 1 hour and 52 minutes, and guess what? It's 2024, and even though I had hope and faith that all the religious horror movies have been and gone, sadly, that wasn't the case because we were graced with The Deliverance that does deal with religious horror, which at this point, given how many horrors have released in 2024 dealing with religious horror, I now feel as though religious horror has been done to death, and it just needs to stop for a little while. How many times can Jesus or God save these characters in horror movies in 2024? The movie does deal with some topics of child abuse and does delve into the subject of alcoholism, which I will praise this movie for because it did handle those situations and topics or themes in the movie rather well, I thought, given the negativity I have given the movie for the most part of this review. It's a shame that for most part of the review I have had to give this movie some bad criticism because I was really looking forward to seeing this one when it first got released on Netflix a couple of weeks ago, so it is a shame that this didn't live up to the hype I was kind of hoping for. But for those that do want to check this movie out, The Deliverance is now available to stream on the streaming service Netflix globally. Wicked Little Letters. Wicked Little Letters is coming up next, and I've gave it 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Wicked Little Letters was released in cinemas earlier this year. It had a limited theatrical run here in the UK, so sadly I missed out on watching this in cinemas. However, for the past month or so, it has been available for me to watch on Netflix in the UK, and I have just managed to get around to watching it. So what did I think of this one? Well, I really enjoyed it and thought that this movie was actually really funny. Lots of great dialogue in here, which is loads of fun, rather comedic at times as well, and full of British charm and charisma as well. You also have a lot of British talent in this film as well, which is really nice to see, as you have the likes of Olivia Colman, Jessie Buckley, Alicia Weir, and Timothy Spall all star in this movie, which by the way is also based on a true story. The only thing that I will say about this movie is in regards to the element of mystery that you have within the film, I really don't think it was necessary to have this in here because given the fact what happens within the first few scenes, it was rather obvious as to what was happening and what was going on, and I just personally felt as though they didn't need this element in here. Is this a film worth watching? I definitely do agree. It is worth the 1 hour and 40-minute running time for sure. And is this a film I could see myself rewatching in the future? I do reckon so, yes, especially given how funny and comedic the script/dialogue was for this film. So if you are wanting to watch it, Wicked Little Letters is now streaming on Netflix here in the UK, and it is also available to buy and rent on digital platforms.
Touch.
So the next film I saw this week was Touch, which I gave 1.5 star over on Letterboxd. From what I was aware, I went to one of my local cinemas a few weeks back and saw a film poster of this on the wall. And I am assuming that the film had a limited theatrical run in cinemas because it isn't out in cinemas now. That being said though, was this worth watching on the big screen? For me, I sadly didn't think so. The movie has a running time of 2 hours, and while I will admit that the music scoring in this was done so wonderfully and beautifully as well, but I just felt as though this kind of felt like the 2023 movie Past Lives, or at least someone trying to rip off that story. And we here we are in 2024 with another version of Past Lives, but except it's called Touch. Did this movie touch me in any way? It honestly didn't, unfortunately. And also, yes, this movie does have some English-speaking dialogue in here, but it also has some Icelandic speaking dialogue and Japanese-speaking dialogue in here. And for me, sadly, I didn't have any English subtitles turned on for those scenes, so therefore I couldn't understand what the characters were saying in the language that they were talking, because I don't know a single word in Japanese, and the same going for Icelandic as well. Is this a movie that I will watch again? Given the negative feedback I have given towards the film, I don't think this is something I will watch again, but I am glad that I have seen it though, and glad I gave my thoughts on this film as well. Is this a movie that I will recommend to people? I mean, if you enjoyed the movie Past Lives in 2023, then sure, you may have a different opinion to me on this one, but for me, out of the two, Past Lives from 2023 was far better than the movie Touch.
Stay Alive.
Next movie I've seen is Stay Alive, which I gave 2 stars over on Letterboxd. I discovered this movie through the horror community on Twitter/X, and despite the movie being released in 2006, I have never seen it or heard of it before until now, that is. So what did I think of this horror movie? Well, I actually really enjoyed it, and I think it's safe to say I agree with the rest of the horror community on Twitter/X. This is one of those horror movies that doesn't get enough credit, and is also one of those horror movies which are under the radar. If I had heard about this movie a lot sooner, I would have seen it a lot sooner and probably reviewed it a lot sooner. But that being said though, I still enjoyed this film a lot, and I am glad that I have watched it and am able to review it as well. The film does also star Frankie Muniz, you know, from the TV series Malcolm in the Middle. He is, as far as I'm aware, the only actor that I can recognise from this film, but I did enjoy the story, which is about a group of teens who play a video game, a horror video game to be exact. If their avatar in the game dies, they end up facing the same fate in reality as their avatars in the video game. It's a great premise, and I think it is well executed. The only bad thing that I will say about this movie is that I wish the characters who met their fate was in this movie a lot longer, and also the movie to be a bit longer, because 1 hour and 25 minutes is too short for this film. It could have easily been 1 hour and 45 minutes and a bit more character development, and it would have been a bit more enjoyable, a bit more of an enjoyable movie. That being said, with the running time being short, it is an ideal horror movie to watch if you want to stick on a quick horror movie. I am aware that in August 2022, the director behind this film said there is a potential sequel in the works for the film. That is 18 years, or at the time 16 years, since the original movie was released, and with the way how the film ended, I can see how they could end up making a sequel behind the movie. But if they do that though, I should imagine that they'll probably update the gaming graphics that they use in the film to the graphics we see in today's video games, unless they want to kind of keep it in the era that the first film was released, which was back in 2006. Is this a horror movie I would recommend for horror fans to watch? Yes, definitely, especially if you are into video games, whether that is video games on gaming consoles or gaming on PCs. I would recommend this one, and I do think it is one of those horror movies that I would happily rewatch again as well.
Don't turn out the lights.
So Don't Turn Out the Lights, I gave 2 stars over on Letterboxd. I wouldn't normally talk about the ending of a movie until near to the end of the review, but for this purpose I do need to, because when the credits rolled, I noticed towards the end of the credits that the movie was made in post-production using Final Cut Pro. How did I know that? Well, I recognised the logo as the credits rolled, but they also used actors from SAG-AFTRA as well, so I can see why this movie was supposed to release in 2023 but didn't until 2024. And finally, I will say that just as the last of the credits rolled, we see the original working title behind this film come up, which the original working title for the film was titled Blue Light. And given the amount of times those words were used throughout the entirety of the film, I'm surprised they didn't keep to that name. But Don't Turn Out the Lights, what did I think of this one? Well, it was some parts okay and some parts not. I enjoyed the fact that we had this horror movie with a bunch of teens on their way to a music festival, and they get stuck in their RV that they are travelling in, and all this creepy stuff begins to happen as they are stuck in the middle of nowhere on a road where it appears that no cars seem to drive through late at night. It's almost like everyone got the memo to not drive down a specific road late at night, and then there's these teens who didn't get the memo and just drove the RV down the road and ended up getting stuck and lost. And then some horrifying stuff begins to happen to them, which I won't delve into because of spoilers. I do appreciate the fact the film does have a running time of 1 hour and 49 minutes, and I know that some people will disagree with that running time because they felt as though the movie was too long and needed to be shortened down a little bit. But I think it was great. This movie had some room to develop these characters we were seeing throughout the film. Just give us a bit of development into each character and then delve into the story. The story itself, I thought, was fine, and there was some rather creepy elements to this movie, which I thought was great, especially from the moment this film opened. There were some creepy elements in here, which I'm sure will keep viewers watching the film engaged with the film and the story. As for the acting from all the supporting cast members in here were fine, although there was so much screaming going on, which I will say as you go on further down in the film, it does get pretty annoying after a little while, to be honest. But if you can cope with it like I did, then I respect you for continuing to watch the film. Would this be a film that I would recommend? I think watching it once is fine, and I don't think this is a film I would happily rewatch again. For me, it's one of those films that I have seen once, but probably wouldn't see it again. But that being said though, as for recommending it, I would say sure, give this a watch. Add it to your list of horrors to watch during this spooky season, even if it is just the once that you are planning to see this film for.
Satanic Panic.
Satanic Panic is the next movie that I've seen this week, and I gave it 2 stars over on Letterboxd. I have recently come across Satanic Panic through the means of the horror community on Twitter. I saw someone post a clip of a certain scene of this film, and it was quite comedic scene that involves a character wearing some huge drill thing on her crotch area. And then it ends up getting stuck in a staircase, and as she manages to get it out of the staircase, it ends up going straight into her friend's crotch, and as it stabs her, her guts end up falling out. A brutal death, I know, but if you see the scene for yourself, then you will see how comedic it is rather than me describing it in this review. But as for Satanic Panic though, a movie which came out in 2019, it is a horror movie which doesn't take itself too seriously. I think this is more of a horror comedy because there is a lot more comedy in this than there is horror. That being said though, I don't think there are many actors or actresses in this film who I recognise from previous projects, aside from one, and he wasn't in this for long. I think his name is Jerry O'Connell. He played a guy called Samuel, and he was only in it for one scene, but I do recognise him from a movie I watched growing up called Kangaroo Jack. He played one of the main leads in that movie. Speaking of leads, I did think though that the 3 main leads we got in this movie were decent and they were likeable as well. The movie does have a running time of 1 hour and 30 minutes. I did feel as though the beginning of the story went too quick, but I can't complain though because that is what you get with a film with very limited running time. Is this a movie that I think I will go back and revisit? I mean, I'm not really too sure, and I think it's too early for me to say whether I would or not. I mean, after all, this was just a dumb, fun movie, and Is this a movie that I would recommend people to watch? I do think if you're looking for a dumb, fun horror comedy movie that doesn't have a long running time, then sure, add this one to your watch list to watch over the spooky season.
Speak no evil.
So the next movie that I've seen this week is Speak No Evil, and it's a new one, by the way, in cinemas, which I gave 3 stars over on Letterboxd. Speak No Evil is a movie which is a remake of a Danish horror movie that came out a few years ago. And I must say that I don't remember too much about the original Danish horror movie, but I am aware that I have seen it. But how does this one hold up? The music scoring in this is good, especially during those tense scenes, and especially during the final act of the movie. I thought the music scoring was done really well. The characters in this film were kind of likeable, but at the same time they weren't. Now, don't get me wrong, the children, they were fine. James McAvoy, who plays one of the main characters in this film, he was great, unnerving at times, and probably the standout performer all around in this film as well. He definitely had those creepy vibes going on, and he was on screen a lot in the duration of the film. Which was great. In fact, I do believe that, he is pretty much in nearly every scene of the movie. However, though, the other couple that we see throughout the movie, they were really dumb. They were really dumb. I don't really want to go into too many spoiler details, as this film has only just been released in cinemas at the time of doing this review, but I will say that the other couple we see in this film, who spends a weekend at this house with this other couple, one of them played by McAvoy, they were pretty dumb. Firstly, they didn't know too much about this couple they were staying with. They didn't know if they had good or bad intentions, which turns out in the end that they had bad intentions all along. Was that a spoiler? I don't know. But they had bad intentions. Also, they met them while they were away on vacation in Italy. They happened to give them their address so that the couple could send the other couple a postcard asking them to stay with them for the weekend. Why do that? They literally could have said, we would love to stay with you one weekend. That would be great. What's that? You want our address? No, it's fine. We will search you up on social media when we are ready to meet again. I'm sure we will find a way of looking for you, okay? It's fine. Have a great rest of your trip now. Yeah, bye. Bye. No, they didn't do that. They didn't do that at all. They literally was like, you want our address? Here you go. Here's our address. Send us a postcard. And they did. Why? Just why? It's not just that, neither, but they allow their nearly 12-year-old daughter to go on a Vespa bike and ride around the town with a stranger they literally have only known for 5 minutes. And she is there riding on the back of this Vespa bike with no helmet on. Like, hello? What about safety first? There are a few questionable moments in this film, to be honest, but look, I am not going to take away what I did enjoy about this movie. Did it keep me intrigued and engaged? Yeah, it did. And was this movie rather predictable? I mean, if you have seen the original Danish horror movie, then I guess you kind of know what will happen to some degree, but if you haven't, then I guess you won't know what twists and turns will be coming along the way with the story and the movie. I will say this is one of those movies by Blumhouse in recent years that I did somewhat enjoy and wouldn't mind watching again at some point as well. Is this a film I would recommend? Yes, if you are looking for a psychological thriller / horror movie, then I would recommend watching this film. Speak No Evil is currently playing in cinemas and theatres worldwide right now.
Beetlejuice.
So, I have given this movie, which I'm not saying the title again, just in case he appears, I have given this movie 3 stars over on Letterboxd. I have seen the original, but I saw the original about a year or so ago. I'm not sure whether I did actually review the original over on Letterboxd or not, but if I did, then I am sure I do remember in the review saying that I found the movie to not take itself seriously, and I don't actually think I dug the original movie. The original film, by the way, was released 36 years ago, so we are talking back in 1988 is when the original came out, and here we are now in 2024, and we have a sequel to this film, and yes, it does reference that it's been 30 odd years since the events from the original. That being said, we still have some of the characters in here from the original, and if you have seen the original, then you will also find some Easter eggs in here from the original. I am sure die-hard fans of this film will get the references that can be seen within this one, but did I have a good time with this one? I think it's actually safe to say that yes, I did have a great time with this film. As a matter of fact, I'd probably prefer this one than the original. Do you have some returning cast members in here? Like Catherine O'Hara, Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder, and you also have new cast member Jenna Ortega in here as well. Sometimes I just can't help but think this was like watching an extended episode of Wednesday on Netflix at times. I just can't see Jenna Ortega in other roles with the same, or rather same style haircut as she is in Wednesday, especially when it comes to this kind of genre as well. If she changed her hairstyles a bit for the different roles she plays within this type of genre, even if it's just by a little bit, then maybe I won't see her as such as Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. Again, similar to the original film, it does at times not take itself too seriously, although I like the fact that with this film they have gone down the route of telling the story of a mother and daughter struggling to bond. I think that was a different approach to the film, but one that I did enjoy, and I feel as though the characters had enough room in the space of the running time to develop and for the story to be told. I will be honest though, there is a wedding scene towards the end of the film, and I just felt as though that scene was going on and on for ages. It just almost felt like it had no end to it. While funny at first, yes, but then the comedy just started to dry out from that scene, and it just became more tedious as it went on. Is this a film I would happily rewatch again? Yes, it is. And is this a film that I would recommend people to watch? Yeah, I think so, to be honest. I do also appreciate the fact that while at times they use CGI for some stuff, and I did think it did work at times and other times it didn't, but I also do appreciate the fact that they also used practical effects for this film as well, which was great to see. If you are wanting to check this movie out for yourself, then feel free to, as it is now currently playing in cinemas and theatres worldwide.
Something in the Water.
Something in the Water, I gave 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. I'm always a fan of a survival thriller movie. Take a couple of years ago when we had the movie Fall. That was such a great survival thriller. Well, I thought so anyways. And I know that it is getting a sequel and a third movie as well, which makes me wonder how they will do a second and third film. But we will wait and see what the outcome is for that. But going on to Something in the Water though, and there were moments where I instantly felt like this was the 2024 version of Fall, except this was set in water, a shark-infested water, than being stuck at the top of a radio tower. I will say that this was a decent movie. It does deal with homophobic scenes at the beginning of the movie and how that can affect a same-sex couple in the aftermath of a homophobic attack. And we see that happen on screen throughout the movie. I did think those moments were well acted out by the main leads of the film. But what I can say about the other supporting cast members is their acting was a little off in here, I can't lie. But they are young actresses in here though, and I'm sure they are just doing their best with the dialogue and the scripts that they were given. I will say though, what I did also love about this is it's not all about the shark in the water. Like, yeah, we do see the shark in the water at times, more from a bird's eye point of view kind of perspective, more than seeing the shark in the ocean, which sometimes creature features end up doing that. They focus a lot more on the shark and making it look so badly CGI'd in. But this movie didn't do that at all. I thought, if anything, it did make it believable that there was a shark in the ocean with these women. So I don't have any complaints about the shark in this. I will say as well that I did enjoy the fact that we did get roughly 20 minutes or 30 minutes of the movie to get to know the characters. Even if they do or don't meet a grave fate in the film, we still get to see some character development involved, and the film doesn't really feel rushed at all. Is this a film I would recommend? Yes, sure, I would recommend this movie for people to watch, especially if you do enjoy the survival thriller genre. And is this a movie I would watch again? I do think so, but for the time being though, I am happy to have seen it, and I am sure at some point I would be happy to revisit this one again. Something in the Water is now available to buy and rent on digital platforms.
I used to be funny.
And finally, the final movie I've watched this week is I Used to Be Funny, which I gave 3 stars over on Letterboxd. I will tell you, I'll tell you what, right? Rachel Sennott is slowly becoming such a rising star. She has appeared in the movie Bodies, Bodies, Bodies in 2022, a film that I've only seen once, and I should at some point get back to revisiting it again. And she is also appearing in an upcoming movie called Saturday Night, which will be releasing in cinemas and theatres worldwide soon. But I have watched I Used to Be Funny, and it is such a heartbreaking story about a young girl who has got PTSD. And we also see that a young girl that she used to babysit has gone missing. What I love so much about this story is the fact that it has enough room within the running time to tell the story in such a delicate way. I think that the characters in here are well developed and are very likeable, especially Sennett's character. And I will also say that I just loved how both of the stories in here are put together or woven together so nicely. There is a lot in here to digest, and I won't go into spoilers in case there are people seeing this review and adding this to the watch list, but it does delve into trauma and how that can affect people in different ways. And I will warn now, there are certain scenes in here which are hard to watch as well, but they are very well acted out by the cast involved in those scenes, and done in a delicate way as well, and handled in a very delicate way as well. Is this a movie that I would recommend to people? Yes, I would say add this one to the watch list and give this a watch. It's a sad story, but one told in such a brilliant way in terms of storytelling. For those looking to watch I Used to Be Funny, it's now available to buy and rent on digital platforms. And that is it for this week's episode of the Movie Wrap Up. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what movies you've seen this week, regardless whether it's on DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, old, new, in cinemas. Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, really do appreciate your comments. And if you are new around here and you like what you see, then feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to become a Stevo. I will be back with your next movie wrap up again on Sunday next weekend. That is Sunday the 22nd of September 2024. And also as well, brand new episode of the weekly vlog is coming your way tomorrow, Monday the 16th of September 2024 as well, at the usual time of 4 PM UK time. So I hope you can catch me then, but until then though, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again in my next YouTube video.